Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. Since we wrapped up all the X-Men movies, I can get back to uh regular scheduled kind of movies. Now, of course, uh uh before the Halloween season starts, I got this movie and another movie which uh will be the Kenneth Branagh. Well, technically I guess it will qualify as like part of the Halloween season with like the Haunting of Venice that I will check out possibly next Thursday. I know it only came out like a couple of days ago, but I got other stuff I had to take care of, so it's, I couldn't make the time out for it. But I will do it next week, which will pretty much kick off some Halloween stuff, which is probably gonna be like a kind of double it up because I got a comic book that I want to review next week. Already teased that on my Twitter handle. If you haven't already, please follow me in the links in the description below. At Talkative Carl on Twitter. Follow me as I'm going live on my twitch.tv/Talkative Carl, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Talkative Carl. Check out my Patreon. All links are in the description below if you're watching this live on Twitch or on YouTube. But yeah, I've been sitting on this movie for a hot minute ever since I believe the Oscars last year, where you know I keep effing up his doggone name, Ki Hui Kwan, and Brendan Fraser won Oscars for The Whale and everywhere all at once. I'm just not gonna say the whole entire long ass freaking name. And I figured like, and there was this whole, I don't know who, pretty sure it was Jimmy Kimmel made some kind of joke about, Pauly Shore, which was here, could have gotten like a Oscar for something, so we can have all three members of Encino Man. Because also Sean Astin is like an Oscar award-winning person. So the reason I may put this on the list for this year's movie review was, I wanted to revisit Encino Man, which I haven't seen since like the 90s. And man, what a time capsule. Because this movie came out in 1992. And I was like a little kid, man. And I watched this when it came out on TV. I only saw it like a couple of times. I remember enjoying it because I watched a fair share of Pauly Shore films and stuff that he's been like, guest starring in or supporting cast in, like the Goofy movie, the Leaning Tower Cheats. I still remember that. And it's like, sure, the nice gimmicks, kind of make that same kind of comment about like Adam Sandler. There's certain things that they used to do that was funny back then. It's kind of played out now. You typically wouldn't get away with half of it, but I really wanted to revisit it because it was a cool movie as I remember, and I thought it'd be fun to just revisit it. So this movie was directed by Les Mayfield, which he only did like a handful of movies. He did Miracle on 34th Street, Flubber, Blue Streak. Didn't know he did Blue Streak. American Outlaws, The Man, and the last movie he did, codenamed The Cleaner, which stars like Cedric the Entertainer and Lucy Liu, which I don't remember it being any good at all. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't made a movie since 2007. Maybe because like The Cleaner was probably like a flop by all metrics, because I saw it on TV and I do not remember liking it at all. But anyway, this movie, Encino Man, stars Brendan Fraser as Link, Sean Astin as Dave Morgan, Pauly Shore, Stanley Stoney Brown, Megan Ward as Rodney Sweeney, Marriott Harley, Betty Morgan, Richard Masur as Larry Morgan. This is like the Morgan family. Michael DeLuise as Matt Wilson, and we got like Robin Tooney as Ella. And get this, of course we got Ke Huy Quan as just Kim. It's like a supporting role, and not supporting role, but kind of like a little short bit here. And of course you remember him as, you know, Short Round. And of course, my shock, Rose McGowan had a little bit part in here as just like a generic student named Nora. So that was fun. It's funny to revisit old films that you haven't seen in years and see all the B and A listers that you know, did not even think would be big deals. You see them in these little bit parts. It's kind of wild to me. And I'm pretty sure this is way before the first Scream movie. At least maybe like a year or two before the Scream movie. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like I'm pretty sure the first Scream movie was in like the same year. This was in the same year. No, actually, no, I'm wrong. Yeah, Encino Man was her first brief role, and she been in another movie, Doom Generation, and then her breakout role was in the Scream movie that came out in 1996. Like I'm Goof, I done Goof. Anyway, Dave and Stoney, or like high school seniors. This is, you know, that Dave desperately trying to be cool. He's pining after a grade school friend of his that is now popular, but this dude is, I'm pretty sure it was even weird back then, because this dude carried around a picture of, because they used to be, you know, grade school friends. They hung out a lot, but then it's like, why would you? He has a picture of them sharing a bathtub as little kids. First of all, still, I mean, you could probably get away with it if they were babies and they don't know any freaking better. But even if you're in like the hell, even the first grade, after a certain point, when they, you know, are kindergarten or first graders, you keep like, you know, boys and girls separate when you're trying to bathe them. At least that's my opinion. I'm pretty sure it's like, you know, obvious. But the fact that parents probably took that picture thinking, oh, it's so cute, woo woo, it's freaking weird. But it's even weirder, he can have like a picture, you keep around a picture of that. You know, normally a kid his age would be a little bit more embarrassed, but he's simping for a girl that kind of still likes him, but she's at an age where, you know, on her part, she takes, when girls, you know, get hotter in their teens and they got different priorities, so they're more concerned with, you know, like, you know, typical high schoolers, majority of them are more concerned with social status and popularity, or finding cliques they fit in at the very least. She's getting one of the popular kids. She's dating one of those high school jocks, your typical high school jock. Matt, who doesn't like Dave, given the fact that he keeps like trying to holler at his girlfriend. And I don't want to put too much blame uh on Robin, because she just she's got a good she's a good person. She's not like, well, she's not outwardly bullying him or ignoring him, but she just feels like she doesn't want to associate too long with him. This dude flashed of that photo in the middle of a busy hallway to her, and she just getting like, this dude can't seem to read the freaking room. It's kind of bizarre why he's simping and he's trying too hard. And like, I wasn't a hit with the girls either, but I knew that much not to like do that. He's brazen to give him that, but she just wants just like at least the normal discussion between him and her without him being weird, because he was being weird, and I got and she's clearly off put by that. But Stony, just, he's popular-ish. He just does his own thing, doesn't really care about like he just goes with the flow kind of attitude, which makes him popular. It's just like cool by not trying to be cool. And it's something that I keep wanting to call him Sean Astin. This Dave is something that Dave probably should learn from. But the movie begins when it's like we see Brandon Fraser as during the first ice age, him trying to start a fire with his cave woman girlfriend, and an earthquake happens, or avalanche went down on them. They end up being frozen in place. Then fast forward to 1992, as Dave is digging out his folks' backyard so they can start like building up their pool. He and Stoney discover the block of ice caveman. Now, ironically, in school they were learning from their teacher, who happens to be the actor who was in Scary Movie, the Scream parody. It's kind of funny. No, it wasn't. No, he wasn't in the parody. I'm pretty sure he was in the actual Scream movie. He died in 2015, sadly, but from diabetes. But he was in Spaceballs. He's in the first Die Hard. I sworn. Yeah, he was in the Scary Movie. It's Cindy's dad. I knew it was like it's like, yeah. I was like, I knew he was in the parody. I thought he was one of the cops, but no, he was Sydney's dad. It's like I knew, like, yeah, because that's the first time I actually acknowledged him in anything, because he was like funny as hell in Scary Movie. Despite the short time like on screen presence he had, he made that work, and he was really funny. But surprisingly, he was in other, he was character actor, he was in other stuff, but that was the first time I actually kind of acknowledged him, because he kind of was a standout. Anyway, he was Mr. Brush, and he was teaching Dave and the other students about the caveman era, like the first ice age. And uh I like the whole parallels because actually Stoney's actually, you think, because given Pauly Shore's mannerisms back then, you'll think, oh, he's just the stoner, stoner dude is spacey and everything like that. But no, he's very intelligent. As they discover uh Link in the block of ice, he regales or reminds Dave on the specific era that he might hail from. And so Dave want to use this opportunity to get famous, and they don't want to tell nobody because they'll just take off their hands and take all the credit. They want to make sure they get all the credit and stuff like that. So they haul the block of ice to Dave's garage. They put space heater rounds to try to defrost him. So while they went to school, he defrosted. He, this caveman who doesn't know any better, seeing like garbage trucks as like a wild beast or something. He, run around just like a loincloth. And given the fact that he was, frozen in his fur coat, you'll think that's what he should have been wearing, because that should have been frozen right along with him and preserved. But somehow he's just stark naked, probably just for comedic purposes. But it's kind of like kind of like a continuity mistake in a way. Anyway, he goes through Dave's house. Don't know how well, it's LA, so people just walk in and leave their doors unlocked all the time, so I guess that kind of tracks. But he just waltzed in on Dave's house and leaving muddy footprints all over the place. And he's trying to, as the guys get home, they discover all these muddy handprints and footprints, leads to Dave's room, and Link is starting to try to start a fire. And after Link is freaking out, Stoney got the brilliant idea to take out his lighter and mesmerize Link with the fire. So they decide to clean him up, do this whole glow up thing, and cut off his little hair, his like lock hairs, and name him Link, kind of like the missing Link. And decide not only to take him to school, but trick his folks into thinking like, oh, he's an exchange student, because his parents are so busy at work, they, I guess, are that so absent-minded to not like think like, oh, did we have a conversation about like an exchange student? And it's like, even though like the little sister was like, oh, come on, you can't be buying this. And like, yeah, are you that dumb of parents? Are you that neglectful parents to not remember having a conversation about like an exchange student living with you guys? That'd be so freaking weird. And after all this, like, what are you gonna do when like you guys be in graduation and like get in a place, like what he's gonna do? It's like, there's a whole lot of stuff that like him getting like a freaking ID, a job, and he's barely he starts talking in broken words, but he's picking it up, because as you see in the classroom, what they're learning about this guy, that human beings eventually pick up words. I don't know how it starts, but we name things like bird, grass, and it's like eventually they started forming legit sentences. So I mean, you gotta have like a probably like a I don't know if it's like a paleontologist or whoever studies like history of man, uh uh or just like the ice age period in general, can probably speak on this a little bit more in depth on how, like, you know, early man began like verbal communication. But I think it should track, given the fact that, you know, it starts off slow, but eventually it gets broken English, and maybe in the next few months to a year, he actually can form like legit sentences, kind of like a little kid, in a way, so far as like learning how to talk. It'll probably take a while. I'm kind of glad that despite the adventure of the entire film, he isn't like, completely articulate all the way through, because he kind of picks up the mannerisms of Stoney more so than anybody else, because he hangs out with him probably more so. But I figure after like a year, he'll probably be relatively fluent in English and hopefully reading and writing. Anyway, they get him enrolled in school, even though how long before the prom and eventually graduation, because they're seniors at this point. I'm pretty sure it's like, early senior year, I guess. But, Dave's is so hyper focused on sinking his popularity and not, leaving as losers. And this is like your typical high school drama, honestly, where it's like the nerdy kids trying to get popular. But this is your senior year, dude, and it's like, and you're thinking it as I'm thinking it as an adult right now, because I remember back in high school and it sucked. Oh, hey, thanks for the follow, Arminita. Thank you for the follow. What's up? But like, yeah, high school sucked if he wasn't popular. Now, like, I wasn't like the super nerdy. Hey, Amelia. I wasn't like the super popular dude whatsoever, but wasn't like a total like stereotypical nerd or anything like that. Because like I knew popular dudes who like anime. But then again, by the time I was in high school, was in like the early 2000s, like 2003 when I started freshman year of high school. Do I stream daily? Typically, uh, 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 usually Sundays is when I'm off. This Saturday I'm gonna be busy. I'm going out to a party, so I won't be streaming this coming Saturday. But normally, every day I stream except for Sundays. But if you follow me, I typically let people know what days I might be, off. But Twitter is, normally when I post when something unexpected happens and I can't stream on a particular day that I normally would. If you follow me on my Twitter, I let people know. What character do you like in games? Well, like, what was my favorite video game character? Dante from Devil May Cry is my favorite video game character of all time. Yeah, it's like I wasn't like the super nerdy stereotypical dude, because around that time people like generally like the same things. They just kind of be like low key about it, because I'm pretty sure when you were in high school during the 90s, I'm pretty sure it was like what you see from these movies, where it's like you cannot like anything, because the stuff that we like growing up didn't exist, or they just started. during the 90s. That's when we was little kids. Uh, uh, I know we don't talk about that kind of stuff. Arminta, like I keep butchering your name. My apologies, but like but I'm good. Uh, but yeah, like so. Of course, Dave will probably be considered a nerd during his tenure in high school, but of course, when you're in high school, everything's like super important. It's like like oh, the world's gonna end. Like I gotta be popular to make my mark here, and that's just like Dave's sole focus. He's hyper focused on that, so he's want to exploit Link in order to gain that popularity. uh um so now Dave and Stony are trying to figure out, okay, we got to uh make sure that this dude don't do anything too crazy, considering he's still kind of primitive. uh uh so they got to, like, during their classes, you know Dave take up like the first half up until like fourth period of watching him in a way, while Stony takes up the other half. And uh Stony then takes Link out to pretty much see, like, I wouldn't necessarily see the world. It's not like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or anything like that, but he takes us to a convenience store and some all the snacks and wheezing the juice, wheezing the juice, just wheezing the juice, bruh. Uh, like like doing that whole stick that Pauly Shore does. But then like I'm good, Armita. It's like I got a bunch of people like popping in, like saying like do some kind of artwork for me. So so like I'm good. I'm like, if I need to, I can, like, follow me on Twitter. I can always, I got a list of people who always want to do some stuff for me, but for right now I'm good. So uh Stony takes him to the convenience store, then he takes him to the amusement park, roller coaster rides and all this other stuff. And then Dave gets all worried sick, and he acts like a freaking mom, as Stony points out. Like, I've been worried sick. Dude, you sound like my mom. Made me laugh. That was hilarious. Well-timed comeback. But but Stony actually cares, legit. And he points out, to Dave, like, I only want to be his friend. You're only concerned about exploiting this guy. But then, because Link, he just does nothing. He doesn't have the, because of the modern days, or at least modern of that time, he doesn't have any perceptions on popularity or what's cool. As a matter of fact, Link, how old would he be when he was frozen in ice? Typically, of course, he should be like a few million years old technically. But just like, would he be considered a teenager during that period of the ice age? That's something that kind of popped in my mind. Like, was he being a teenager? Because if not, he should be a grown-ass freaking man, or at least in his freaking, in his early 20s. and he's still in high school, he should be kind of like, you know, got like a, you know, scruffiness of a you know, inclination of a beard or something like that. uh but anyway, because of his kind of like brutish kind of mannerisms, it turns on one of Robin's best friends, I think it was Ella, uh because she made this freaking comment about like how like, oh, the caveman back there was kind of hot. It's like you're really showing like probably the wrong picture of what the early man looked like. Or at least I won't say early man, but it's just like his final, lack of a better word, evolution from primates to what man is. He would still be not only kind of hairy, but kind of like a furrowed brow. But you're depicting him as like this hot dude, and it's well, not like, you know, like hot dude, but he still got kind of like a full beard and long hair. But it's like, you know, it's a little bit hairier. Should be like a little bit hairier of a picture, but she's kind of flirtatious, and the teacher points out to her, it's like, but you might think he's hot and everything like that, but people back then, at least especially the men back then, if he wanted something, he'll just take it. Because life back then, it was just like their only focus was survival. And, you know, and yeah, that's would be considered right. I mean, it's like they you know, they probably lived in caves or huts or whatever like that, but they kind of established like early kind of civilization from what I remember from my learning of the Ice Age and historical stuff in school. But it's not like the whole cartoony thing where like man back caveman back then just bash a girl on top of the head and drag her by the hair to his cave and that's my wife kind of thing. No, it's like there would have been some sort of uh I don't know what you would call it, but kind of like mating kind of strategy uh between like they weren't just humping each other, at least not wouldn't think, but they have some low level understanding of mating or attractiveness of a fairer sex, and you know, vice versa. And that's my mate, you know, like, and I'm banging this particular mate. um so uh I'm not sure how accurate, like I said, like I'm not like a historical early man you know, scientist or anything like that, but there would be like aggression and just, you know, do what you can to survive, really barely any rules. But I wouldn't know. Like I said, I wouldn't know. Uh, 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 but anyway, uh, she ironically gets turned on and attracted to Link, given his brutish nature, and he just walks up and sniffs her and everything like that. Because this is the primitive man is probably like the ultimate testosterone and uh you know man, in a way where it's just like things that, you know, it's we evolve as a society, but those lizard part of our brain that, you know, that part is still there after so many millions of years later. It's still part of us. We like what we like, and like, you know, men typically are more aggressive than females, and women like, you know, a man to be a man and, you know, move heavy stuff and take charge and take control kind of thing is appealing, despite what most girls might say. Subconsciously they like that crap, and it's typically usually a-hole men that display that more often. And that's why so many girls fall into bad boys, because like they just flaunt that part of them more often without kind of regulating that, because you can't, because the typical bully back then probably got all the chicks, or the typical thug, or your drug dealer or whatever, like those stereotypical bad boys, kind of flaunt the rules kind of thing. But because of Link and how he hangs out with Stony and Dave, he's got popular, so by proxy they go where he go. So they end up going to the roller rink, and Dave gets in an altercation with Matt after he was sitting there talking with Robin, and Link tries to step in, and Matt hits him across the chin, but he just took it, and everybody was so impressed by Link, the fact that, oh my god, he just ate that punch, because he's a little tougher. Cave people were made from a different stock back then, so I'm pretty sure they had to live in harsh environments, so they would have been like built Tonka tough. But he didn't fight back, and with to Dave's dismay, like, we gotta teach him how to fight. It's like, I can't believe he just did. And I want to take the point right here to mention, because a lot of people kind of clown on Pauly Shore, thinking like, oh, he just does that same kind of gimmick that he's been doing since the 90s with his like weed head kind of attitude, and like the way he speaks. And it's like, he actually is a legit good actor, and he still acts today. He does character work. Like, I think he did like a Pinocchio animated film like a year ago that didn't do well, but he still acts from time to time. And I kind of want to hope that he goes into like an Oscar award winning kind of indie movie that kind of like kind of gives that kind of shade back to Jimmy Kimmel for making a joke. It's a joke at his expense. I'm pretty sure he's he's like a good sport about it. But it's like the day when he wins an Oscar for something and he brings up Jimmy Kimmel's joke, well, how you like me now, Jimmy Kimmel, kind of thing. But he's a legit good actor, because like when the need calls for it, for those downer soft-spoken moments when things get serious, he he knows how to like dial it back and let that play out, and he play out those somber moments very well, and he explains to Dave like, why would he fight back? In his era, he only fought for survival, not for popularity. Doesn't had no he has no preconceived notions about being better than the other person. It wasn't until probably like later, when like they became like farmers and agriculturalists and stuff like that, when sometime after that, when like kids worry about being popular than the other person, that kind of thing, when they didn't have to worry about fighting off saber-toothed tigers and mammoths and all the other stuff for meat and resources. So they decided to teach him like karate, show him karate films and wrestling films, just so he can be able to fight back when the need arises. But then they also went to a field trip to a history museum, and this is when, like, kudos to Brendan Fraser, because he is we only fairly recently, I want to say not that recently, I'm pretty sure it was around the time when the first season of Doom Patrol really kicked off, after like a short a long break between like what Brendan Fraser's uh you know, time in the limelight had been put on pause. I'm pretty sure after the whole situation, he going through like a crazy divorce that was very nasty, and he'd done all these kind of crappy films from time to time. He took a break from Hollywood, and it wasn't until like around when like the first season of Doom Patrol came out when the Renaissance really started kicking off, and everybody just, and currently right now they're in talks of making another Mummy movie, which he said he was down for if we get like the previous uh actors he worked with to come back. That'd be kind of dope, and I'm pretty sure that will do gangbusters in the box office just to see, you know, Brandon Fraser in anything at this point, because he's really, really good. Haven't seen it well, but pretty sure it was good enough to win an Oscar. I'm pretty sure it's fantastic. But I always love Brandon Fraser. This is my first Brandon Fraser movie review that I've done. I think the one other one I did was Bedazzled last Halloween, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. I get my thoughts on his performance there. That was top notch because he actually had to play at least a handful of different personas, which for the most part cartoony, but it's really good. It's not on the same. I wouldn't say it's on the same level as something like James McAvoy in Split, but it's pretty good and shows his range as an actor. Which, you know, like, I highly encourage you guys to check out the movie Bedazzled because he's really, really good in it. And so is Elizabeth Hurley. You know, those two like together are really standouts for me. Because other than the Mummy movies, well, the first two, Bedazzled is probably like my other favorite Brandon Fraser film. It's also good in Tarzan from what I remember, but I was a little kid when I saw that. And of course there was not Tarzan, but George of the Jungle. I don't know if it did well in the box office, but I remember him being very funny in that. And then there was Deli Do Right, which was funny in that, but I don't remember the movie doing all that well. But man, Brandon Fraser is always hilarious. But when you want to be serious, he gives those serious roles. Like Blast from the Past, that was another good one that is a little bit more of a dramatic kind of role that he was really good in. Anyway, so they go to the museum and like he's seeing all these old artifacts of people he probably remember back in during the Ice Age period, where he's seeing like people. It's hard to say like he knew them, but he's picking up on it. The more he's walking around and seeing everything, and he's essentially had like a nervous breakdown. And kudos to Pauly Shore again and his character. It's like he picks up on these things a lot more than Dave, because like I said, Dave is a little bit more hyper focused on what he wants and not, and he has to be nudged into understanding this other people are, you know, like feeling kind of down. You gotta like our friend here is having like a nervous breakdown because he just watching everything he knows is just on display right now, and everything he knows is gone and dead. The life he knew is gone and dead. It's not too dissimilar to what we saw from like Steve Rogers' Captain America, where it's like, you know, he's going through the museum and all the stuff he knew from the 30s and 40s is like on display in a museum. He's, you know, everything you know, everybody he knew, the life he knew, it's all gone and dead, or at least old and senile or gone and dead. So him and Bucky's are the last remnants of that era. So like, you know, Stoney, you know, just sitting with him, and like him and Dave just sits with, and you can ask any party like a good therapist when somebody having like kind of like a nervous breakdown. You don't have to say much, just just sit there with them and keep them company and comfort them. And I kind of like where they just sit there. There is no words need to be spoken. They just sat there and just sit there for a minute. It's a really good scene. And it's like, man, it's like you go back to it and it's all you think when you watch this as a little kid, you only see the funny moments and you don't have like the cognizance to understand like the serious moments like and appreciate them until you get older and you revisit it and stuff and you see all these little cues and it's like, wow, this a good scene. This is well acted right here. Like they play these moments in an appropriate time when it needs to be serious. They play it out top notch. And it's like, man, it's like people need to revisit Encino Man and see these kind of moments where it's like, it's not just all out comedy here. Even though the comedy is great, but man, when serious moments happen, they done well. I'm not sure why this director kind of fell off. It's like, halfway through his freaking career, he only did like a handful of movies, and half of it is only actually any good. But then after the whole altercation at the roller rink, Robin kind of breaks it off with Matt. He gets jealous and starts snooping through Link's records and notices that, because Stoney and Dave didn't really do their due diligence in making sure his files look more legit, and it gave it more of a dog kind of demographic in the records. And somehow it was still accepted in like the student records. But after snooping through, leading up like days before the prom, they start gathering evidence to prove what because who this guy is. But also they end up going to after because not sure why they didn't have this guy with them, but Stoney and Dave were in class and they look outside and they notice that Link is in driver's ed class about to learn how to drive, and it's like, why would you neither one of you or pay attention to this dude all the way through? It's like you can't let him wander off. He's supposed to be splitting up time to watch him. So they run out and jump in a car with Robin because she's taking driver's ed class along with Link, and he drives off crazy doing tricks with the car and then being chased by cops, and he parallel parks really well for a caveman. But then they run and hide inside this local bar, which eventually the cops show up and not wanting Link to get in trouble. The rest take off, and but Dave gets in trouble. He uses one phone call to like ask Robin to go to prom with him, but he ended up getting grounded anyway, so that's not happening. But when Robin wants to go out to the prom with Link, this caused a rift between him and Link, and then by extension Stoney, because he's telling Link to, during the whole Lassie moment, it's like go away, and it's like because he just like he liked Robin and he feels like, oh my god, it's like this dude got too popular and now he's dating the one girl that I'm interested in, so I'm butthurt. So I'd rather him just go away so that way I can have her all to myself. That's not not healthy at all. But he's a teenager and that's the only thing he's kind of concerned with himself. But Stoney shows up and tells him off, where it's like, dude, you've been selfish, and it's like you exploited him, you dragged me along this whole thing. And so that's a big fight. Link turns around, sees this, runs back and breaks him up, and he doesn't even say any words. It's like he separates these two. He wipes, the corner of Stoney's mouth because it's bleeding, and he shows it to Dave, and it's like, it's just Brandon Fraser didn't even have to say much in this role. It's usually more so with grunts and broken speech here and there, but he pretty much had to act out with his body, and it just gets point across that way, and it's beautifully done because it's like he doesn't have to say words. He's just like, look what you did to your friend, essentially. And they end up making up, and so Dave, under the realization where it's like, I can't be hung up like that. It's like she's her own person. She goes out whoever she wants to. I gotta take responsibility. So he helps Link get ready for the prom. Even though Robin still wants Dave to come, he was like, nah, it's okay. You two have a great time. Showing some growth and maturity. But then once Dave realized that Matt took the photos snuck in his house, took the photos from his room, that proof of who Link really is, he and Stoney raced to the prom, and it was too late. And then Matt went on stage and showed and told everybody who Link really is. Like, oh, he's a caveman. Everybody just cheered. They didn't care. And a fight breaks out, and Link, Stoney, and Dave took down Matt, in front of everybody. The party went all the way to Dave's house, and it's like, where is his freaking parents? They can't all be working late. But Robin and Dave hook up, but then Stoney and Link notices muddy breasts and handprints on the slider glass door, and they run inside the house and see in the tub, which I'm not sure who run that bathroom because she wouldn't have known how to do that. She's in the bathtub, and it's Link's cave woman girlfriend. So they clean her up, and now he's reunited with the one person that he's deeply connected with from his time, and the movie ends on that happy note. So yeah, Encino Man is actually really, really good, and there's a lot more stuff beyond beyond just the comedy that when we was little kids we didn't probably appreciate, especially Pauly Shore's performance. I gotta give, like, look, Sean Astin, Pauly Shore, and Brandon Fraser, all three acted very well in this, in three different aspects of what the role requires of them, and it's done very well, as I point out each phase. Of course, Sean Astin, being the leader, lead role, was lean into the whole irresponsible self-centeredness, but it's done very well, not in a malicious way. He's still kind-hearted, but that's the hurdle he has to get over with, like, so not being so consumed with just popularity that he neglecting his friends' needs, and putting his needs above their own, and exploiting people nearest dearest to him, and then also having to acknowledge the fact that Robin's not this prize that I gotta win. She's her own person, and I gotta chill. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, but I'm not gonna try to force it in a way. But yeah, I mean, all that is done phenomenally. Even though I would think he would have just somebody would have called the local police or something, or at least Matt should have been more conscientious of, like, trying to call the police about this guy who's actually a freaking caveman, and get some kind of scientist or somebody, some higher authority to come in there and pick them up. That'll probably be a little bit more drama to it, but the way to play it out was fine. But it's just relying on just messing up his popularity should have been like the end goal. I think the bigger like come up, not come up is, but the bigger, you know, stick it to them moment would have been getting some higher authority or some scientists involved to round up Link, and then Sony and Robin and Dave drive to break Link out and save him. But it's played out the way it's played out. It's fine. But anyway, if you have not seen Encino Man, do yourself a favor, check it out. But yeah, it's a really good film, and more so than I thought it would, because I thought maybe it would just been like just straight up comedy, you know, all throughout. But no, there's some really good dramatic scenes here that, you know, I think people would neglect. But anyway, I will see you guys in a few minutes, because I want to break down my Mortal Kombat 1 review. I've just wrapped up the walkthrough, which was like 4 videos, very, you know, quicker than I thought it would be. So I'll get my thoughts on that, and also season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. I want to get my thoughts on that. And later on tonight, I will be doing some more video game videos. But anyway, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Take care.